Welcome to this PayTrace webinar. My name is Sam Johnson. I'll be your host today. Today's webinar is a newer webinar. I've actually released this to kind of small groups, but this is the first time that we're going to launch this kind of in a full broadcast. But today we're going to be talking about expanding your B2B cash flow options with Trace ACH. And I'm very thrilled to be presenting this one because I've had requests for years about doing some more ACH content. And with some new product releases that PayTrace has had recently, this is the perfect opportunity to start shifting that conversation away from the card heavy conversations and start looking more towards these ACH driven conversations. So, with that said, our agenda today is we are going to talk about how businesses accept payments. We're going to go into a little bit of a demo about Trace ACH, which is our newest ACH rail. And then lastly, we're going to have some time for Q&A and next steps. So let's talk a little bit about kind of the current needs and really the challenges that I think a lot of folks are seeing with regards to their payments. And specifically, for those that aren't doing ACH processing, and maybe we're a little bit behind the times, we're doing more traditional payment processing in the forms of paper checks. Really, we want to look towards the value of going digital. And if you've watched some of my other trainings before on invoicing and some AR tools, this will look pretty similar because a lot of what we do in accounts receivable is going to be very applicable specifically to ACH, as that's one of the biggest drivers in AR. Um, I think one of the biggest challenges that a lot of businesses face today is slow order to cash processes. Basically, meaning that as a business, as a B2B organization, we can go out there and we can make sales, tons of sales. We've got the best sales team in the world, but we're not actually gonna, see that monetization in our bank account for, you know, a long time if we don't have really good AR processes. And one of the challenges with that is very long DSO times. And specific to our conversation today, very manual, laborious paper processes. And we don't like paper processes. It's bad for the environment. There's lots of room for human error when we do paper things. And it's costly. It's going to be very costly. Um, Not just in supplies, but really in the bottom line in slow time to cash, right? We want to see that cash realized in our bank accounts rather than on some sort of receivables line item. So we're going to address some of that. Disconnected buying experience. Nobody likes paying by paper check. I might be weirdo in that I kind of do sometimes. I like seeing the money, but then I also don't like putting it in an envelope and paying off my bills. Um, just got through tax season. That was fun. But buyers today don't like paying in archaic, outdated forms of payments. Today we are, right, we're going to date this webinar. It's 2025. We're a quarter through the 21st century. And there's so many new innovative ways to make payments that we're using as consumers, as individuals ourselves, right? I go out and I use the tap to pay on my card. If I don't have my wallet on me, I'll whip out my cell phone and use my Apple Pay. I'm using all these different digital forms of currency as opposed to having my checkbook on me. I'm only going to use a checkbook if it's going to save me money on convenience fees or something like that. But for the most part, right, as buyers, no, people aren't carrying cash anymore. We want that consumer experience, and that's trickling. Trickling is probably not the best verb for this, but it's really starting to penetrate the B2B space, right? As AP teams are kind of growing for a lot of these B2B buyers, right? They're looking for similar buying experiences. They want to be able to pay digitally. They want to pay online with a credit card or an ACH, bank account. They want to be able to do the ways that they do rather than having to print out a check, stuff it in an envelope, and then have that be deposited and try to reconcile your accounts, right? So, um, having the ability to meet our buyers where they are is going to be extremely important. And then lastly, this is just one of the biggest areas of growth that we're seeing for CFOs, right? Over the last couple of years, some of the challenges that they're tackling is adopting new softwares, adopting new ERP systems, and bringing in digital payments into that, not only into their paying, but into their selling, into all their practices, trying to remove all of this manual processes and try to automate that in some sort of digital form or fashion. Payments is a great fit into that challenge. So let's make this a little bit interactive really quick. I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll. This is going to be a good lead into the next slide. I want to see how many of you guys are paying attention. What do you think today is the most popular form of B2B payment? Is it ACH? Is it going in line with the conversation that we're having here today? Is it card, right? Is it kind of what we've been focusing on for the last however many sessions? Is it going to be more of the paper check processes? I'm going to tell you, it's probably not wire or cash. That would be a very different conversation if it was. I'm going to leave this up here for about 3 more seconds. Get your response in. We're going to close it out. So, based on the live response here from the audience, the number one answer is ACH, with card and paper check coming in on a close second. Um, well, we've done some data, we've done some market research, and what we've found is that by far the most common form of B2B payment today is check. Not even close, right? 63% of B2B payments are collected via paper check. Coming in second is ACH at 26%, so about a quarter of all payments. And then credit card is kind of the lagging factor in that, with the last being other, which I think other is probably made up of wire, cash, and maybe trade. If people, trade's still a thing. Um, so with that said, right, I think a lot of us can see this as a big issue, but also a big opportunity in the fact that over half of payments are still being made as paper check. And if you're on the selling side of payments, if you're on kind of the sales partner side of this, right, hopefully you're seeing this as big opportunity in the fact that so many businesses are still being inefficient with their payments, by having this manual paper process. And we have ways to influence that. If you're on the merchant side of this, hopefully this is a time to start thinking about, you know, what can I do to better improve this process when there are other digital forms of payments out there? So we're hoping to grow this piece of the pie, really that yellow and red piece of the pie, um, and see that blue start to shrink significantly over the next few years. Um, so on that, I'm a junkie for graphs apparently, at least on this presentation, because I've got some more data to really kind of back up this need to get rid of the paper billing process, because a lot of people are hesitant about switching over to a new payment solution, and especially when they need to bring in some sort of company like PayTrace, and we have costs, right? They're like, well, it doesn't make sense from a cost perspective. Paper checks don't cost me anything, right? No, you're wrong. Paper checks are super costly. In fact, they're probably one of the most cost ineffective forms of payment today, from the supplier perspective, because on average, it costs about $25 to process a paper check, paper invoice from start to finish. You're probably like, Sam, where $25? How does that actually make sense? We've done some kind of breaking down in some of those actual, kind of hard costs, the overhead and the real costs of paper check. This is based off an example of a merchant that's maybe sending out on average about 600 invoices per month. Now, the easy things to figure out and figure out a cost on are going to be printing and mailing, right? And these numbers are going to be pretty consistent for the most part. It'll, you know, ebb and flow with the cost of goods and the cost of the post office. But for the most part, right, we can say that on average, if we're doing 600 invoices at 70 cents for printing, and 49 cents for the mailing costs, right? Just for printing and mailing, it's going to cost us about what is that? 700, a little over $700 a month for those invoices, a little over a buck per invoice. However, then there's the actual staffing cost, right? This doesn't happen automatically. There are actual people here that are doing this. So the cost of preparing and sending that is going to add up to about a $3.33 per invoice on average from what we've gathered. So if you add all that up, just for sending out all of your invoices, it's going to cost about a little over $2,500 for those 600 invoices. And that's just assuming that we're going to get paid on every single one of those invoices on time. That doesn't happen. We know that doesn't happen. So we're going to have to send out second notices. We're going to have to send out third notices. And then when we actually get those payments, woohoo, we get payments, it's going to cost us to actually receive and apply those payments to those receivables. So all of that said, if we add up all of these numbers, right? And I didn't say that we're doing second and third notices on all 600 invoices. We're going to say a third of those are going to require a second invoice, and a sixth of those are going to require a final notice. Monthly cost of just paper billing just in that is $6,000, just over 6,000, right? We apply that across 12 months. It's costing roughly $73,000 in expenses to paper invoice. And this is not even taking into effect the cost of money, right? Because when we are doing this paper invoice, there is a time factor in here where we are at the earliest going to get paid probably 7 to 10 days from the time of issuing that invoice. Typically, it's going to be closer to 60 days. And when we have 60-day DSO, um, and not having that cash to reinvest, right? We may have to finance that against our receivables from a lender. There's this idea of inflation, right? Inflation's pretty high right now, so um, add all of that cost on top of it, and paper invoicing is very costly, right? We want to avoid that. So all of this to say, right, all this background to say that PayTrace now has our own ACH rails. We launched our new product, Trace ACH, um, a few months ago. I don't know the exact date, but we've been supporting it for a while. We've been just beta testing it, making sure that it's functioning how we want it to, and that our customers are happy with this. So we're happy to say that now we are fully launched out on Trace ACH. You can now use it. You can now sell it. It is available. We're not reliant on third-party ACH providers any longer, which is really exciting. So what does this mean, right? What are the benefits of Trace ACH? Well, number one is that our customers are now going to have direct payment access into their buyers, right? That's always been one of the big values of cards, is that I know that when I accept a card, I'm going to have money coming in from that card issuing bank. So regardless of the number of dollars that's in that buyer's bank account, I know that the banks have money to pay that payment, and then they can figure that out. What's nice about ACH is that we also now have direct access into our buyers' bank accounts, and we can pull funds directly from them without having to go through any sort of card networks, right? We're going directly bank to bank, which is awesome. That's going to make things a lot more streamlined, a lot more fast. It's also going to provide a lot more ways to pay. With Trace ACH, we have integrated ACH processing into every single way that PayTrace supports processing a payment. We'll look at that when we get into the demo, and I also have a graph here that I'll show you in a moment. But it doesn't matter if you're an online seller, if you're taking your payments over the phone in like a virtual terminal type of way, if you have a hosted payment page or a payment link that we're using, or if you are processing all of your payments through your ERP. ACH is now being implemented into all of these different forms of payment acceptance, of payment processing, which to the next point is going to allow you and your buyers many more flexible ways. Um, when it comes to accounts payable AP teams, there's not necessarily like one cookie cutter way that's going to apply to all of them. A lot of our buyers are starting to adopt virtual cards, which is awesome. A lot of our buyers still do send out paper checks. We're going to fix that, but they may like that. And a lot of our buyers, a majority of them, have the ability to process via ACH, and that's their preferred method. So when it comes to that, we want to be able to meet our buyers where they are so that, right, they're going to pay us quicker, right? They don't have excuses anymore, but it's also going to influence the relationship that we have between buyer and supplier. It's going to make them want to purchase with us more when we're able to meet them where they're at, right? Less restrictions, less barriers, less hoops to jump through is always going to create a better relationship, a better buying experience, which is very important. Reducing costs and risks. ACH is probably the most safe, secure way of processing payments, right? Cards can be risky. We hear about card fraud constantly. ACH is going to be pretty inexpensive when you compare it to other forms of payment. It's going to cost less than paper checks, and the risk of human error is very low, right? Which is also a cost, right? Anytime there's human error, there's a cost associated with that. Data security, right? We are going to be NACHA compliant. So we have the highest level of security within our system to make sure that all of our payers' data is secure. We can store that information securely on our system, but it's encrypted. Nobody's going to be able to access that information. And then lastly, and I think the thing that resonates the most, especially with PayTrace on why Trace ACH versus any other or any other ACH solution, is because you're going to get the best support using PayTrace. Um, Questions, issues, you have live people, not chatbots, not AI, not people overseas. You have live US individuals that have decades of um, payments experience, right, at your disposal. So, again, whether you are a user of PayTrace, whether you are a sales partner of PayTrace, right, this is a great value on both sides. So, with that said, more ways to pay, right? Here they are. This is applying really into any way that businesses need to process their payments. Um, right? And again, we're really focusing on the digital. So any sort of back office payments, if you need that virtual terminal, kind of the simplest form of ACH payment, we got you. If you need something a little bit more technologic, tech, I think that's the right word, integrated, right? We can take ACH and we can embed it into your software, whether it's your own proprietary solution or whether it's one of these large ERPs or accounting platforms like a QuickBooks or a NetSuite, right? Pay now buttons, recurring billing, right? We can do recurring billing via ACH now, which is awesome. So if you do any subscription billing or installment payments, this is all supported within that, and hosted checkout solutions. So really, we're checking all the boxes when it comes to ACH. We're giving you the full rollout right out the gate. But we can talk about this all day long. I think a lot of you guys actually want to see this in action. So let's take, maybe 5 minutes, I think, if we're on time. Yep, about 5 minutes. And let's hop into a demo of this solution and check it out. I'm going to go into my demo environment. Let me make sure that I can refresh it. We're good. And we're going to go into my ACH account. This is supporting Trace ACH. You can see this by this drop-down menu here on the left-hand side that says checks. And this has all of my ability to process these electronic forms of checks. So if we wanted to just do this from a virtual terminal, I'll process it. Oops, let me try this again. And I'm going to call it out. I was having a couple issues with my demo environment earlier today. So we're going to cross our fingers, see if this works. I'm going to go ahead and put in all of my customers' information. I have that stored in my account. So routing number, checking account number. Again, you're not going to take all my money if you use this. This is a demo one. And then I'll just go ahead and process an amount. So we're going to do it for $1. Please demo account work. Yeah, still having the issues. Um, so in a typical environment, let me just hop around here and see if I can try this one more time. Yeah, I don't think it's the right page that's pulled up. In a normal environment, if I had the right demo information set up, right, we get a notification that says this is approved for $1. If you're a PayTrace user today or sales partner, it looks almost the exact same as if we're processing a card transaction. We're just replacing that card number with a checking account and a routing number, or right, an account number. Um, so very simple from a usability perspective. Now, if you're also using tools like Payment Link or recurring payments, in Payment Link, I sent myself a link here for $1. So looks good. I've got the invoice number, total of one whole dollar. When I go to check out, now the buyer has some options, right? We can do kind of that traditional pay trace processing method of a card, or I can hop over here into bank account, and that's going to add in that account number, routing number. It's going to ask me what type of account this is, if it's checking or savings, and I can go ahead and process that payment directly through my payment link. So what's great is that if you are existing PayTrace user or you have existing PayTrace merchants today, being able to implement Trace ACH into this is extremely seamless, right? You can take that existing account that's already there and let's just add a new form of payment into this. And then lastly, as far as showing you from a demo perspective, if I wanted to schedule a recurring payment, I'll go to new payment. I'm going to go ahead and grab my customer that I want to bill. We'll say Sam is going to pay 10 whole dollars a month. And then when I get to payment type down here at the bottom, I can adjust it from either card. So if I have card saved to this account, great. Or I can adjust that to ACH. And then I'll just put in a total number of 12 transactions, hit save. And now my bank account's going to be withdrawn 12 times. Oops, not going to email a receipt. Let's try that one more time. 12 total times for the next 12 months. I'll have $10 withdrawn from it automatically. So, um, again, very nice. If you've seen PayTrace demos, this isn't anything super new. It's just showing you that everything that we've launched on this new ACH platform is going to automatically embed right into your already existing native PayTrace account. So, Um, for those of you that are on the sales partner side, I've put together kind of some discovery questions and some qualification questions to see if our customers, our clients are going to be good fits for this. And I think if you are on the user side, if you are a PayTrace user today, while this isn't as applicable to you, this should start getting you some ideas on, you know, is this going to be a good fit for me? Is Trace ACH going to be a good solution? I should really start thinking about what types of payments I'm accepting today and really how my customers want to pay me. Um, right? Am I still doing paper billing? Kind of that costly process. And what is the most important in accepting payments? And these are a lot of the kind of the qualifiers, those buying signals that, maybe this is going to be a good fit for Trace ACH, right? If you're B2B, if you are interested in becoming more efficient, if that's one of your kind of annual goals is automating processes, which automation's a huge, right? A huge thing today. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but this is a resource here for any of you that want it. And I am also excited to announce that this is available in both Trace AR and on our API. So for any of you guys that might be on the integration partner side of things, or you are using this through an integration, we have new API documentation that you can check out. It's PayTrace's API version 3.0. It's the latest updated documentation. Um, Trace ACH is fully supported on that, and we're not going to be supporting third party partner ACH vendors on the API documentation moving forward. So we're just going to make it very simple and keep it at Trace ACH. And for any of our Trace AR users, which is our newer AR product, Trace ACH is also integrated into that. So if you want to accept ACH as a form of payment, that is now available on Trace AR. So I'm going to kind of put this all together in one big value proposition slide to wrap this up. Why is this important to merchants, right? To our actual users? One, we're accelerating receivables, we're reducing the DSO. All of this Trace ACH stuff is a one-stop shop, right? So if you are taking card and ACH payments, you don't need to use a lot of different vendors. You don't have to have a bunch of different systems. You can have that all in one place within your PayTrace account. And then, of course, you get the value of five-star support. To our sales partners, it's going to be pretty similar value. With this, now you have the ability to monetize all forms of payment. So this has a new revenue stream opportunity for you. We're happy to discuss that, what that looks like from kind of a cost perspective. Um, but for those of you that are very reliant on card and have kind of put ACH to the wayside, right? Now you have ACH as the ability as a new revenue source for you, right? By providing your customers more value, you can actually, right, have more generate more business from that. Similarly, right, one-stop shop, consolidate all of your vendors. You're not having to have multiple ACH partners. You're not having to have a ton of different gateway partners and hope that they talk to each other, right? They both say Trace on them, PayTrace, Trace ACH. I can assume that they're going to work. And then, of course, right, for you guys, you get the five-star support as well. Just some general statistics for you guys. If you're a newer partner or newer user of PayTrace, here's just some information that adds a little bit of credibility to what we do. We process a lot of volume through our system. We've got a lot of people using us, right? Hopefully, this establishes a little bit of credibility in that sense. And we are starting to pump out some case studies. This is a quote that I really liked from one of our merchants today, but they said PayTrace just works. I should have just kept that quote. I like that one. Just PayTrace just works. One of the most effortless services they've ever used, best support in the industry. Um, I did not pay them to say this. This is a quote that they just wanted to tell us. We actually didn't even solicit this quote. So um, just a really good testimony to what we're doing. Again, this is a new product. It's going to work. It's going to integrate effortlessly within your system, and highly recommend that you take a look at it. So with that said, I'm going to open up the floodgates to any questions. Looks like I think we only have one on the live session here. But if you do need to get in contact with anybody from our team about Trace ACH, here's an email for you. If you do want to get in contact with me directly, you're like, Sam, you said something, and I want to clarify that, or maybe you want more training or just have a discussion, you can get a hold of me at salestraining@paytrace.com. Again, my name's Sam, and that's salestraining@paytrace.com. And Bill asking that question, how do sales agents benefit monetarily from ACH payments? Yeah, that's a question that everybody always asks because card is really the way that you typically in the payments industry monetize that. There is a basis point implication with ACH payments as well, where we can provide value to our customers and capitalize on some value from that as well. So, Bill, I'd encourage you to reach out to our sales team. We'll kind of talk over the Schedule A of Trace ACH and how you can use that as a selling tool and a revenue generating tool. And then Darren is asking, what is the difference between eCheck and Trace ACH? It's all pretty synonymous. There are some um, semantics in eCheck versus ACH that um, I went through some research a while ago, but it's pretty light. Um, so Darren, I don't have a good answer for you, unfortunately. I wish I did. But right, I'd say it's synonymous, the two. All right. And with that team, you're welcome, Bill. We are at time. I know it's at the end of the day for most of you, or past the end of the day. So thank you for watching live. If you want to review this, this will be up on our YouTube channel. And if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, please like and subscribe. We've got tons of content. We're going to be producing a lot more educational webinars throughout this year. So you definitely want to be informed of that. So go ahead and check that out as well. Thank you all and have a fantastic rest of your week. Take care.